It's going to make sure we got a big crowd here in the show. You know, people always say, you know, the Alabama crowd's a little flat. You know, they don't show up. Not the ones in the stadium. I mean the ones for the show. It's just because basically we get charged property taxes. We're here so often over the years, right? They're like, oh, those guys are here again.
Hello.
Hi, how are you?
Thank you, sir.
What we got here?
This is a road mic. So
No. I mean, what's Bama FB?
Bama football on YouTube.
Bama football on YouTube.
Yeah, almost to 100,000 subscribers.
Hey, congratulations.
Thank you very much.
That's awesome.
Can you talk about the transformation of Alabama from the last time you guys were here to now this time?
They've improved steadily every week. It's been interesting because everybody wants to write off the dynasty every time they lose or every time they, don't cover the spread or whatever it might be. Yet this team has sort of embraced and embodied the role of resilient, I wouldn't say scrappy underdog, but close to it. They always seem to be fighting back from something, and that's a great characteristic to have when you're pursuing a championship. But along with that, I think they've improved weekly. And I've used this analogy a lot. Over the course of this great run that Alabama's had, when they come out of fall camp and get ready to start the season, look, nobody's a finished product. But the room and the question marks and all of those things, the distance between where they are and what their ceiling could be is usually fairly small relative to other teams. This year, it's pretty sizable. And you see them week to week covering some of that ground and improving and getting better. And I think it's a testament to the guys that they've sort of stuck with it, and to the coaches, and they figured out more and more what guys do better. Guys are getting better. Everybody, talks about Jalen, and they should, because he's getting better. The offensive line's had some moments where it looks a little bit improved, and certainly I think, the defense has really stepped up, and everybody sees Dallas and Braswell on the edges, but the inside backers, especially Campbell, he just tackles everybody. Whether he knows exactly where he's supposed to be is irrelevant. That dude finds the football. Downs is a freshman All-American. The two corners are really good, and they're going to be challenged because this is the best offense in the country, I think, coming in. If it's not, at worst, it's 1A with Washington. This is a formidable challenge, but their defense has really played well. I think the interior of the defensive line has been a big reason that they've been so good lately.
The last time GameDay was here, Quinn Ewers kind of took it to him, especially in the secondary, put up a lot of yards. Do you feel like that secondary is more apt to handle an attack like Jaden Daniels, despite LSU's offense being better than that Texas offense?
Maybe because of their improvement, but not. I wouldn't say that. It's not going to be easier to handle this offense than it was Texas. Texas got a great offense too. I mean, that dude calling plays for Texas knows what he's doing, and as everybody in Alabama knows very well. And the same is true with LSU. And Jaden Daniels has played as well as any quarterback in the country this year. And they've got one receiver who's leading the nation in yards and the other one who's leading the nation in touchdowns. So take your pick, Plus the quarterback can run. So Alabama could play. I mean, what's a great defensive performance Saturday night? Holding them to 28. Yeah, 31. That's not bad. I'm sure Kevin Steele would like more, but that's not bad if you can do that, because those guys are going to make plays. So I don't know that they're more equipped to handle them stylistically or anything, but it could just be the maturing process and some of the young guys who are playing more, maybe a little more comfortable in their roles, a little more confident in their roles, maybe playing a little faster. All of those types of things that can help a defense improve.
Rece, Coach Saban had his birthday this week and has a bloodshot eye, apparently, from screaming so much. Have you seen that?
I saw him yesterday. I really didn't notice the overly bloodshot eye, though.
Yeah.
Did he jump off the dock into the lake or something? What did he do?
They said it was from screaming and
Screaming
yelling.
in practice?
That's what they said.
Oh, okay.
So I was wondering, have you seen with Pat McAfee doing more interviews and Coach Saban kind of being out there maybe even a little bit more this season with your network and Pat McAfee? What have you kind of seen in him in his 72nd year?
I think Milroe put it best. He might be getting on up there in years, but he acts young, and everything he does is kind of young. He's still relates to people. And I mean, he's been sensational on Pat's show. I mean, Pat has a way of making people around him comfortable, and he's done a sensational job with that. Pat's a super likable guy. Nick's got a very underrated sense of humor, and so it's a good mix. So, I think giving people the opportunity to see a little bit more about that. One of the things that I always marvel at about Nick is that even when he's being lighthearted, he has a way of sending his message. And, I've noticed yesterday and then around practice yesterday afternoon too, a lot of the conversation with Pat and with the team was about staying in the moment, play the moment. And it's he's one of the great communicators of our time. He could communicate in any industry, and among the legendary coaches, I can't think of many who've communicated with their teams and with fans and with the media in general quite as well as he's doing it right now. I think he's done it really well for the last few years, and I think he's doing it at an extraordinary level now. And Pat, he and Pat and the relationship that they have deserve a lot of credit for that.
Rece, we're back again. I feel like you never left. We were just talking to you in Texas Week a few weeks ago, and now Bama, LSU, and you've had a front row seat for so many of these big games against LSU. Where would you rank this one in terms of importance?
I mean, it's really tough to say. I think probably the games in 2011, both of them, the regular season game, the championship game, that would be where you would start in terms of historical importance. But I think so many of them have been because there's so much of an all or nothing feel to it because they're in the same division. You go back the last 20 national champions, 9 of them, one of these two. And one of those came at the expense of the other in the 2011 rematch. The 2019 game was, kind of an all or nothing feel for both teams and turned out to be a great game. So, this one's a little bit different because I think even with LSU's opportunity to win the SEC, circumstances are going to have to fall right, even with an SEC championship for them to get into the playoff. They could, and certainly they would have a case, but I don't think it's quite the foregone conclusion that it is for Alabama if Alabama wins out. So, stakes are really high. Somebody's dreams are almost certain to come to an end Saturday night. So the stakes are high like they always are in this game.
Can you imagine future SEC without this game year in and year out?
That shouldn't happen. It's, first of all, everybody needs to work it out so that they play 9 conference games. Actually, they should play 10 conference games, but I'm not going to win that battle, so I'll say 9 at least. I'll settle for 9. And they should play each other because once we get to 12 teams in the playoff, it's not going to be long before you have a 3-loss team that's played a strong schedule make the playoff, and nobody's going to mind. So play the games that people want to see. And certainly with the significance, I just mentioned the number of national championships that these two programs have won over the last 2 decades. They've dominated in that fashion. They've been the two most dominant teams over that period of time. Alabama certainly more dominant, but LSU has 3, in 03, 07, and 19. So they should play. And there's a lot to sort out about the potential of playing 3 times in a season and all of that, which very well might happen in the 12-team playoff era if you continue to insist on having championship games. So it's, but they definitely should play a regular season game in my judgment.
I'm trying to think of a more important injury. If you're an LSU fan coming into this one, save maybe Jaden Daniels than number 18, Mekhi Wingo, especially with the way Alabama tries to set the table and do what they want to do on offense. Is there a more important player that could be out in this ballgame than Mekhi Wingo?
I mean, it's a really big deal for them because they've certainly struggled on defense. I don't think the defense has performed to the level of its talent, and I know they've had some issues in the secondary as well. Perkins is a great player for them, but Wingo up front was a really big deal, and so I think it's pretty significant. But Alabama's offensive line is scuffled as well, so we'll see if they can take advantage of that.
Rece, of all the College Day locations, is this your favorite?
There's always sentiment involved when you come back to where you went to school. And I certainly love this place and everything that it represents for me. But in doing this job, I want great crowds. I want unbelievable atmospheres like we had at Washington and like we had at Utah and like we had at Notre Dame. You know, that's what I want. You know, so I mean, I know that's selfish, but you know, for the show, we're going to do a great show regardless of how big the crowd is. But we all get a huge adrenaline boost when we've got a great crowd. And I think as accomplished as Alabama has been on the football field, I hope that their crowd shows up Saturday morning to kind of set the stage for, you know, first Saturday in November, time to start pursuing championships, and hopefully we'll have the atmosphere here to back that up. We're doing a lot of special things in terms of contests and trying to get the Greek organizations out. So I think it's going to be a great morning. I'm looking forward to it.
If I made you commissioner of college football, and what comes out, and they can prove that the sign stealing happened at Michigan or is still happening, what's appropriate?
What's not appropriate is taking them out of competition. What is appropriate is fining them like you wouldn't believe, and probably making all of the responsible parties serve suspensions, including the head coach. Now, it's one of those things where when you're the head coach, it is your responsibility, whether it's your fault or not. And that's because two reasons. One, it's in the NCAA bylaws now. It's a little bit draconian, I think, in terms of the way it's employed from time to time. But when you're in charge, everything rolls back to your doorstep. And, you know, if it was as extensive as the allegations make it appear to be, then Jim's going to have to bear some responsibility for that. So I think it would be appropriate to suspend, certainly appropriate, if proven, to fine heavily. But I am not in the camp that you're going to start doing the foolish thing that they like to do, and we're vacating wins and all of that nonsense. They should still be able to play and compete. At least that's my take on it. And you know, if they suspend coaches and fine them, that's great. Or not great, but it's appropriate. And I would say, though, that they shouldn't rush to judgment just because the other coaches in the Big Ten are all bent out of shape. You've got to finish the investigation, you've got to prove it, and then you punish. And you don't rush because you've got your knickers in a twist because, you know, you think Jim stole your signs, your counter stallions, or, you know, whatever counter stallions. Because the funny thing is, there's a really serious side to it, and there's a wildly amusing side. I mean, this dude goes into Spartan Stadium in East Lansing, and he's dressed like a cross between Mike Ditka and Will Ferrell from that Kicking and Screaming soccer movie, and with a touch of Deion Sanders with a cap and the glasses, you know, fake mustache. And it looked like, you know, something out of a bad '80s high school football movie. And you know, there was even a shot, and if it's him, I don't know that it's been determined 100% that it's him, but there's even a moment, Pete Thamel was telling me the other day that they've got it on video. Player comes toward the sideline, as you know, when you're on a sideline, it happens sometimes. Ball carriers coming their way, and everybody kind of gets out of the way. And he's astute enough, whoever the man in the glasses and the cap and the mustache might be, he's astute enough to know the camera's going to be coming with the ball carrier. Head down, cap down, glasses down, step away, you know, not to get a good look at him. But, you know, so there's an amusing side to it. I know if you're getting your sign stolen illegally, it's not too funny, but I'm going to bring up on GameDay this. As the good book tells us, there is nothing new under the sun. And this is against the rules. They did it as cheating, but it's been going on a long time.
How many of these game days have you done so far, and how do you fight fatigue, I guess?
You mean this season, or, well, 9 years worth? I don't really count them, and this is week 10. And I don't think you get tired if you're engaged and love what you do. I mean, you know, it's a little bit of a grind, but we're talking first world problems here. You know, I mean, I get to cover the sport I love the most. I get to go to the greatest places in the country. I, you know, get to interact with all of these terrific coaches and players. I work with the best people in television, both on the set and behind the scenes, and I have the best job in television. For me, you know, maybe if somebody likes tiddlywinks or horse racing, this wouldn't be the best job in television for them, and I like college football. So this is you know, this is the best job I could ever imagine, man. So I take it as a blessing. I never get tired. The only thing I'm disappointed about is that we're too deep in the season. I want to slow it down a little bit. It's too much fun.
Hey, Rece. I'm a student here at the University of Alabama, and I just want to know, what's the best piece of advice you've ever gotten, or maybe what's the best piece of advice you could give students like me in seeking careers in journalism?
That's a great question. I think the best is sort of the piece of advice that I give to people who aspire to do this. Don't listen to anybody that doesn't have your best interest at heart. And what I mean by that, by nature of what we do, we're out there and there's a subjective quality to it. People are going to like some people, they're going to dislike others. So you can't take every bit of criticism to heart to the point that you try to change something and please everybody, because you will be unsuccessful doing that. That doesn't mean you shouldn't listen to critiques from people who do have your best interest at heart, whether it's a boss, someone you trust in your family or something like that. And sometimes it's a little difficult for them to give that type of feedback because it's so personal. But I think one thing that happens is that if you engage too much with what people say about you on X, Twitter, or whatever, or wherever it might be, then you're going to drive yourself nuts, because most of the time those people don't have your best interest at heart. They just want to make their point, or maybe you didn't agree with them about their perception of their team, so they're going to be critical. So only take criticism from people who you know have your best interest at heart. And other than that, I would say, the best piece of advice I ever got was, be yourself on the air, but you have to be a slightly exaggerated version of yourself, because as the guy told me, most people, almost everybody not named Pat McAfee, way too boring to be on TV just being yourself. So you need to stay true to who you are, but maybe you emphasize some points about that. So that would probably be the best thing that I would have.
Rece, you mentioned facing criticism. Pat, for instance, very recently addressed critics, his own critics, on his show. What do you think Pat McAfee has brought to GameDay? Like, his energy, what kind of addition has he meant to GameDay?
He's been incredible. I mean, he's a great teammate. He works his tail off. He's unbelievably creative and thoughtful, and he brings energy, and there's a connection. All you have to do is come out to our set. I've done this for a long time. I've done this show for 9 years. I was in the studio with college football for ESPN for 17. I've worked in local television. I have never seen anybody with the connection to this crowd and the innate feel of how to do it like he has. It's a remarkable thing. And he's also extraordinarily respectful of what this show means in the landscape of college football. And he's just been an incredible teammate. And the energy he brought, the way he can, bring the crowd up and feel it when they need a little juice, and the way he just is spontaneous and responds. It's 34 degrees in Salt Lake City last week. They're chanting, take it off, and he rips off his shirt. He didn't sit in the office and say, hey, I'm gonna go out there and take off my shirt. He felt it. It was the right thing to do in the moment, and he's just got a terrific sense about that. We love having him on the show, and I probably shouldn't say this, but I'm going to anyway. Bob Knight was a great friend of mine, and he passed away this week. And the one thing that Bob was most famous, or one of the things he said most famously, probably resonates. You get in this business sometimes, and you might as well hope they bury you upside down so your critics can,
Fill in the blank.
Fill in the blank. I'm not going to say it, but most of you know the Knight quote. If you don't, you can look it up. So.
I guess we just didn't get your take overall on what you think this game is going to come down to, and how you think it's going to shake out.
It's gonna come down, I think, to what the style of play is, and what I mean by that is if it becomes up and down track meet like the 19 game. In the 19 game, LSU won, but Alabama was capable of keeping up. And LSU scored one more time. Great game, the way it goes. Alabama's offense is improving, but they're probably not built for that. Right now, so if you get a game into the 40s, I think that really favors LSU, and if it gets a little more of a bloody nose type of game, I think that favors Alabama. So I think style of play will be the biggest thing. Whether Alabama can avoid negative plays by protecting the quarterback or getting rid of the football, and whether they can keep LSU from running amok, which is really hard to do because that's a really good offense.
Sweet last question, guys.
Good.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate your time.
guys. You bet, guys. Thank you.
Thanks, Reese.
Get a picture.
I don't have a camera.
I got one.
Okay, well, yeah, I do have a camera.
Knock
Since
off
I
of
quoted
it.
night, I figured I'd steal a little hole.